Hi, this is Mark Laughlin with the Ambidextral Gunfighter. Today we are gonna gunfighter geek out. Now, many of you may have seen the spreadsheet I have for size and weight on pistols, 9mm and 380, which I actually stole from TFB TV, but I did modify it quite a bit for my own perspective. Now, one thing I mentioned in the review of the PPQ was I was talking about the fact that the PPQ has this kind of an oval shaped slide, which even though that dimension there may be the same as many other pistols, with that oval shaped slide, this pistol takes up a little bit less space than, for example, a Glock 19, which is a very squared off slide, so that the dimension here on the Glock remains the same for that the whole width of the slide, whereas the PPQ is oval. Now, I talked about the fact that that does fit, makes it maybe a little more comfortable against the body and maybe less likely to print underneath clothing. So I started thinking, what I need to do is figure out what is the actual volume of this pistol versus this pistol. How many cc's of space does this take out? How many cubic centimeters of space does this take up? Versus how many cubic centimeters of space does the Glock 19 take? And so I started thinking, well, how am I going to do a volume analysis of a pistol? And of course I started thinking, well, maybe I can get a pistol and then wrap it with saran wrap and then do the displacement analysis in water. And then I thought, hey, Blue Guns, they make these pistols that holster makers use, and they're very accurate reproductions of the pistol, but have no airspace where water would get inside, so you could actually capture the outside volume of the pistol. So I started thinking, I'm going to check with Blue Guns and see if I can't get a selection of pistols to do displacement analysis on. And John Ring of Blue Guns in Melbourne, Florida, was gracious enough to send me 10 samples to try out for a bit, to do a little bit of my scientific laboratory testing of the volume analysis of these different pistols. And so let's go over my updated spreadsheet. So I've added a tab to my spreadsheet that I call Volume Compact 9s. So I only did it on the Compact 9s, and I only did a few select ones that I really was kind of interested in, or the ones that Blue Guns actually had versions of. And so if we see for example, the SIG P365 came in with, it was 160 cc's. Now, the only other pistol that was equal to the SIG in being that small, and that is that small amount of volume, was the Kel-Tec PF9, which was also 160 cc's. Now, the interesting part is that the Kel-Tec weighs about, according to Kel-Tec, 12.8 ounces. It's measuring 14.8 on my scale, and the SIG is 17.8 according to manufacturer specs. So the SIG is heavier, so it means it's more dense than the Kel-Tec PF9. And then some of the other pistols, we've got the PPQ. Then this was the one that really interested me, and it came in at 285 cc's, which puts it within 10 cc's of the Glock 19. Still did not, it boosted it a little bit, maybe in the size and weight category, but it did not surpass the Glock. The Glock is pretty compact for a 15-round pistol. And then, of course, the PPQ has those dreaded lumpy things on the grip, which I've complained about in the review, which probably take up another maybe 2 or 3 cc's of space, maybe more, I don't know. And of course, if you use the smaller grip panels on the PPQ, it would probably get it down to where it was really comparable to the Glock 19. The Glock has a slightly smaller grip than the PPQ. Now, when I had these, on these 10 pistols that I have on my spreadsheet, my volume analysis tab on the spreadsheet, And then when I do the same weighted composite score, and I also did the same thing. If you notice that in the spreadsheet, I'm calculating the of course, I'm using the weighted capacity again, and you can, ignore that if you like, but I think it's important to figure that the first 4 rounds are more valuable than, say, the last 2 or 3 rounds in a 17-round gun, or a 30-round gun, or whatever. The more rounds you get, each additional round has less utility. There's marginal utility for that round. So I do the weighted rating of the rounds. For example, the 10 rounds, I call it 9.44 capacity. The 7 round, I call 6.9 capacity, and the 17 round is 13.98 capacity. Is how I weight them. Now the bullets per cubic centimeter, I've got the raw data and the weighted per round data, so you can compare that. And the SIG comes out, the SIG P365 comes out pretty far ahead in both categories, whether it's weighted or unweighted. And then when I go to do my composite score, which is a combination of total CCs and total CCs, which is the volume, and weight, since I wanted those to be of equal value, so to speak, I did calculate what is the approximate amount of what a factor I need to apply to the weighted rounds per CC to combine it with weighted rounds per ounce, and then have that composite score be it's equally based on both of those. And it turns out it's about almost 11 is the factor I use. So I multiply the weighted rounds per CC by approximately 11, and then add it to the weighted rounds per ounce, and that's my final weighted score for each pistol. Now, and just so we can look at the go over the spreadsheet here, the final analysis of these 10 pistols, we have the SIG P365 well ahead at 1.17, the Glock 19 still running pretty close, and for the big capacity guns is at 105 for the weighted score. The Walter closed the gap a bit, I'd say. It's now at 1.00. Could get rid of those stupid lumps. It might be right tied with the Glock, and maybe shave an ounce off and it would surpass the Glock, but that's what we're dealing with. The SIG P320 did drop down a bit in the ratings, and the H&K VP9 is very close to the PPQ. Now I created a second spreadsheet which I've used, and maybe I'll make it public, I haven't yet, but it's doing a comparison of how my weighted score on the original spreadsheet, where my size and weight, the size was based upon the width times height, and so that combined with the rounds per ounce gave us that weighted score on the original spreadsheet. And then this new tab with the volume plus weight being the determinant of the score, did it change anything? Did it have any effect in the ranking of these particular 10 pistols? So anyway, on the original spreadsheet, the SIG won out, and it was the Glock came in at second place, and it was at about 96%. The SIG P320 was in third place at 93.44%. The PPQ was at 92%, and this is percentage of the SIG scores, what these percentages are. And then you can see the Smith & Wesson M&P, Springfield Armory XD, the H&K VP9 was down further, the Keltec PF9, Ruger American Compact 9, Glock 26 and the Glock 43 coming up actually in last place, because it's even though it is a fairly compact gun, it doesn't have very many rounds per ounce or rounds per CC, or rounds, actually in this case, rounds per size width times grip height. Now with the new tab using volume analysis, the SIG again came out on top, but it extended its lead. The Glock 19 dropped to 89 or about 90% of the SIG, whereas previously it was about 96%. So the SIG gained a little bit of ground on the Glock and the rest of the field when doing volume analysis. Now the interesting thing is that the Walther PPQ did advance one position in its scoring, and maybe that is because of my theory of the oval slide, a little bit less volume. Could be other factors, I don't know. But that was the theory that kind of generated this whole testing process. And the SIG P320 dropped down one position. The H&K VP9 advanced 2 positions, and the Kel-Tec PF9 advanced 2 positions as well. Now the Glock 26 advanced 3 positions, so that kind of shows that the chunkier gun, the small chunky gun, where it's very efficient and holding X number of rounds per cubic centimeter, has some advantage versus like the really slim PF9 with its 7-round count. The Smith & Wesson M&P dropped 3 positions using the volume analysis. The Springfoot Army XD dropped 3 positions. The Ruger American Compact 9 dropped 1 position, and the Glock 43 remained in last. And which is surprising. The Glock 43 is really an impressive achievement for Glock, but really it's just it carries too few rounds. I mean, it's small and compact, which is nice, but given its capacity, it's just not comparable, say, to the PF9, and definitely not to the P365. The P365 is quite an achievement as far as volume and/or size and weight analysis of pistols. So anyway, that's my little scientific adventure. You know, the testing process was basically taking each one of these blue guns for each, Blue Guns was kind enough to send me those 10 versions of blue pistols, and I just took each one, dunk it into a displacement beaker, and that was full of water, and so then it displaced the water out the little spout, and which I captured in a measuring beaker and recorded the volume. And so a very simple scientific experiment with some maybe sort of interesting results, nothing hugely groundbreaking. I'm pretty sure if I did some further analysis, and maybe at some point I will add that to the spreadsheet, but I'm pretty sure if I did some analysis and said, how correlated is volume to, volume in cc's, how correlated is that to width times grip height? And, it's clearly going to be a certain amount of correlation, and in a lot of ways it is fairly correlated, I'm pretty sure. But we did have some pistols that moved up in the rankings due to volume analysis, and some that moved down in the rankings due to volume analysis. And then the SIG P365 just extended its lead in the volume analysis. So as much as I've been really thrilled with the PPQ and the HK VP9, even though it's not an ambidextral gunfighter pistol, I just may have to get me a SIG P365 and do a review of the SIG P365 from the ambidextral gunfighter perspective. Just like, right now my primary carry is the Kel-Tec PF9, and that's wholly due to size and weight. And so if I can get for the same amount of cc's and just a little more ounces, get another 10 rounds of, or another 4 rounds of, or another 3 rounds of capacity by getting a SIG P365, 3 more rounds SIG P365, and it's basically the same size and not much heavier. Just might have to do that and check that SIG out. Although I'm actually pretty happy with the PF9s for what I need them for, or how infrequently, or actually never I've needed my PF9. We'll conclude this scientific experiment, this volume analysis from the Ambidextral Gunfighter. This is Mark Laughlin at www.ambgun.com. That's AMBGUN.com. Thanks for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe.